Jake Martin had always been careful with his words. As a translator working for Earth's diplomatic corps, his job was to help humans and aliens understand each other, not cause problems. But on that day, inside the great meeting room of the neutral space station, one small mistake nearly changed everything. It was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. Leaders from Earth and the Galactari Empire had gathered to discuss military cooperation and trade routes. The Galactari were tall, strong beings with deep blue skin and armor that looked like it had come straight from a science fiction movie. They were serious, proud, and often quiet. Their culture was built around honor and strength. Earth had learned the hard way not to offend them. Jake had studied their language for years. He'd practiced their complex greetings and titles, and he knew the proper words to use with each rank. But in that moment, as he stood behind the human general, translating a compliment to the Galactari commander across the table, his mouth moved faster than his brain. Instead of saying, "You are a formidable leader," Jake accidentally said, "You are a cute warrior." The room went completely silent. The human side froze. The Galactari side stared, blinking slowly. One of them tilted their head in confusion. A few shifted in their seats, but it was Commander Threxia's reaction that made Jake's stomach drop. Threxia was the top warrior of her kind. She had survived dozens of battles, commanded fleets, and once crushed a rebel uprising with only a squad. Her armor was black and gold, her eyes a glowing shade of violet. She was known across both species for her cold gaze and strict discipline. Now, she was staring at Jake. Her face didn't move. No smile, no anger, just silence. Jake's heart started racing. He wanted to say something, anything, to fix it, but his voice wouldn't come out. Then Threxia slowly stood up. Her gaze never left him. "Human," she said in a voice that was deep and calm. "We will talk. Alone." Jake's legs almost gave out. The human general turned toward him, confused. "What did you say to her?" Jake whispered back. I think I called her cute." "You what?" But it was too late. Threxia had already walked toward the back doors of the room. Without a word, 2 Galactari guards opened them, and she motioned for Jake to follow. Jake looked around. Every human in the room was staring at him. Every Galactari warrior was watching, too. He swallowed hard and followed her through the doors. They walked in silence down a long hallway. The walls of the station hummed softly. Jake's thoughts were spinning. What did she want? Was she angry? Was this a challenge? Was he about to get banned from future missions? Or worse? Finally, they stopped outside a private chamber marked with Galactari symbols. Threxia pressed her hand to the panel, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. She walked in without looking back. Jake stood there for a second, took a deep breath, and followed. The room was simple but elegant. There were strange glowing plants in the corners, a small table in the center, and cushions instead of chairs. A curved window looked out into space. Threxia stood near it, her hands behind her back. She turned to face him. "You called me cute," she said, slowly and clearly. Jake nodded, panicking. It was a mistake. I meant to say formidable. The words in your language are very close, and I just slipped up. I didn't mean any disrespect." Threxia raised one eyebrow. "I am not angry." Jake blinked. "You're not?" She tilted her head. "I wish to understand. What does cute mean to a human?" Jake blinked again. That was not the question he expected. "Well," he said carefully, "it usually means something small, attractive, or charming. Sometimes it's a way to say someone is nice to look at, but not in a powerful way. More like gentle or sweet." Threxia narrowed her eyes. "So you see me as weak?" No, not at all," Jake said quickly. "That's why it was a mistake. You're clearly powerful and serious. I've read about your record. You're one of the most respected warriors in the galaxy." Threxia was silent again. Then, slowly, she walked over to the table and sat down on one of the cushions. She motioned for Jake to do the same. He sat nervously. "I have been called many things," Threxia said. "Commander, weapon, Stormbringer, but never cute." Jake wasn't sure if he should smile or apologize again. "I have never been spoken to in such a way by anyone, not even my own people," she continued. "In my culture, we do not say such words. Emotions are private. Appearances are tools. Even compliments are given through battle results, not words." Jake nodded slowly. "That makes sense. But you," she said, looking at him directly, "used such a word by accident, and yet it made me curious." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "Curious?" She leaned forward slightly. "Yes. Curious about you, about your kind, about why a human would use such a word with me and what it means to feel that way." Jake didn't know what to say. His palms were sweaty. He'd never been in such a strange conversation. "I want to understand," she said. "This human softness, these emotions, words that are not weapons, but something else." He finally found his voice. "I can explain, if you really want to know." Threxia gave a small nod. "We will speak more. Tomorrow, same time, alone." Jake nodded, still unsure if this was good or bad. As he stood up and walked toward the door, she added one more thing. "You are not like other humans, Jake Martin." He looked back. "And you," he said softly, "are not like any alien I've ever met." Then the door closed behind him. Jake couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. All night he kept replaying Threxia's words in his head. She wasn't angry. She didn't challenge him. Instead, she wanted to talk. Alone. Again. It was strange. Back on Earth, he had taken part in many diplomatic meetings. He'd worked with alien leaders before, some strict, some cold, and a few even friendly. But none of them had ever called for a private talk because of a single word. And definitely not a word like cute. The next day, at exactly the same time, Jake stood outside Threxia's quarters once more. He was nervous again, not because he feared her, but because he didn't understand what she really wanted. What could a powerful Galactari warrior possibly want from a human translator like him? The door opened, and she stood inside, calm as always. "You are on time," she said simply. "I try to be," Jake replied, stepping in. Threxia had changed out of her heavy armor. She wore something softer, a deep blue cloth wrapped across her chest and shoulders. It still looked formal, but lighter, more relaxed. Jake took a seat on the same cushion as yesterday, while she poured a thick, glowing drink from a strange round container. "It's called Thalvin," she said. "A drink from my home planet. It helps clear the mind." Jake took the cup with both hands. "Thanks. I've never had alien tea before." "It's not tea," she said, "but close enough." They drank in silence for a moment. Then Threxia asked, "Why do humans use so many different words for emotion?" Jake smiled. "Because we feel a lot of different things. Happiness, sadness, fear, hope, and sometimes all at once." Threxia looked thoughtful. "My people are taught to control all emotion. We are trained from childhood to put duty first. Pain, fear, joy, they are distractions." Jake nodded slowly. "That sounds difficult." "It is our way," she said. "But when you called me cute, I felt something. Something I could not understand. And I still do not." Jake paused. He didn't know if he should apologize again or thank her for being open. So instead, he asked, "What did you feel?" Threxia looked away for a second. "I felt noticed, not as a commander, not as a weapon, but as something else, something softer. I felt different." Jake tried to explain. In human culture, calling someone cute is not just about how they look. It's a way to say they're special, in a small, warm way. Not big and powerful, just special to you. Does that make sense? She studied his face for a long moment. A little. Then she asked, "Do humans enjoy being seen this way?" Jake laughed a little. "Most of the time, yes, especially when the feeling is mutual." She leaned forward. "And what if it is not mutual?" "Well," he said, "then it can be awkward or painful, but that's part of it. We take that risk because sometimes it leads to something good." Threxia was quiet again. Then she said something unexpected. "In my world, bonding is based on strength. Warriors earn respect through battle, leadership, and survival. Love, if it exists, is a word rarely spoken. But with you, I wish to speak, not fight." Jake felt something stir in his chest. This was more than a conversation. She was opening a door few had ever seen. "I'm honored you trust me," he said gently. "Do you trust me?" she asked. Jake looked her in the eye. "Yes, I do." A small silence followed. Then Threxia stood and walked to the window. The stars outside blinked like tiny sparks across the black sky. "I lost my brother during the Earth-Galactari War," she said without turning around. "He was only a second-year combat student. Your people called it a mistake, a wrong strike. He died before he ever became a full warrior." Jake felt a heavy weight in his chest. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't know." "I have carried that for many years," she continued, "and I have trained harder because of it. I hated humans for a long time." Jake stood slowly and walked to her side. "And now?" She looked at him. "Now I do not know what to feel. I do not hate you, but I do not understand why you are kind, why you talk gently, why your eyes do not fear me." Jake took a deep breath. "Because you're not just a warrior. You're a person, and I see that." She blinked slowly. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "I will study this," she said. "This human way of feeling. I will learn it from you." Jake chuckled nervously. "Well, I'm no expert, but I'll try." They sat down again, and their talk turned to other things. Music, art, nature. Jake showed her pictures of Earth, forests, oceans, and animals. Threxia shared stories of her training, of her planet's red skies and glowing rivers. As the hours passed, something gentle began to grow between them. Not romance, not friendship, something new, a quiet bond, unspoken but strong. When it was time to leave, Threxia said, "You will return tomorrow." It wasn't a question, it was a promise. Jake nodded. "I will." As he stepped outside her chamber, he realized something strange. He was no longer nervous. He was curious, too. The next few days became a routine for Jake. Each day, he visited Threxia's quarters at the same time. And each day, their conversations grew deeper, stranger, and more meaningful. They no longer talked about missions, politics, or trade. Instead, they spoke about feelings, memories, and things they both didn't fully understand. What began as an accident, a wrong word, had turned into something neither of them expected. Jake would bring small things to share, a photo of a sunrise from Earth, a short music clip from his favorite song, or even a storybook he had read as a child. Threxia, in return, would show him old battle medals, painted stones from her homeworld, and ancient Galactari songs passed down from warrior to warrior. "I never had someone to talk to like this," she said once, as she carefully examined. "A picture of Earth's oceans." "Me neither," Jake admitted. The space station around them continued to move as usual. Diplomats met, soldiers trained, and agreements were signed. But inside that small room, something rare was happening. Two beings from two different worlds were learning how to see each other as more than just alien or human. One afternoon, Threxia surprised Jake with a strange question. Why do humans touch each other so often? Jake blinked. What do you mean? I watch you with others, she said. You shake hands, you pat shoulders, sometimes you hug. Even when you are not in battle, you touch. Jake smiled. That's how we show comfort. Or friendship, sometimes even love. Threxia tilted her head. Do you always touch the ones you care about? Jake thought about it. Not always. But when we do, it means we trust them, that we feel safe. She nodded slowly. In my world, touch is only allowed during bonding ceremonies or battle. Both are serious. Both leave marks. Jake didn't. You know how to respond to that. So instead, he asked, Have you ever trusted someone like that? Threxia looked out the window. No. Another silence followed. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like both of them were building something invisible between their words. The next day, something changed. During a walk through one of the observation halls, Threxia invited Jake to walk beside her in public. It was the first time they were seen together outside her quarters. Soldiers and officers from both sides passed them, giving strange looks, but no one said anything. Jake felt nervous again, but Threxia walked proudly, as if daring anyone to question her. They stopped in front of a large window showing the stars and several nearby planets. There were other people around, but Threxia turned toward Jake and said something surprising. I want you to see my world. Jake blinked. You mean Galactar? She nodded. There is a ritual hunt coming soon. It is tradition. I will lead it. But I wish for you to attend. Jake's mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Is that allowed? I mean, humans don't usually go there. Not as warriors, she said. But you are not just a human anymore. You are my chosen guest. Jake couldn't believe it. Her people were known for keeping outsiders away. If she was inviting him to a cultural event, it meant something deep, maybe more than he understood. I'd be honored, he said, finally. Good, she replied. Prepare yourself. It will not be easy. Later that evening, Jake met with his commander to request time away for the trip. The older man gave him a hard look. You're getting close to her, he said. Jake didn't deny it. Yes, I am. This isn't a love story, son. It's a fragile alliance. Be careful. Jake stood tall. I'm not doing anything to break that alliance. I'm learning. She's learning. Isn't that what peace is made of? The commander sighed. Just don't let your heart lead you off a cliff. Jake left the office feeling both nervous and excited. The idea of stepping onto an alien world, of seeing how Threxia lived, was both thrilling and terrifying. Before the journey, Threxia gave Jake a set of clothes, light armor, specially made for humans, and a small badge with the symbol of her clan. This will protect you, she said. Not from danger, but from disrespect. Jake bowed slightly. Thank you. I'll wear it with pride. Their ship left the space station the next day. As they flew through space, Jake watched stars drift past the windows. Threxia sat beside him, silent but calm. You're not afraid? He asked. I am, she said. But not of my world. I am afraid of what I might feel. Jake didn't reply. He understood. He felt the same. When they landed on Galactar, Jake was stunned. The sky was a dark red, with floating clouds that shimmered like fire. The forests were thick and glowing, full of strange sounds and distant calls. Everything looked dangerous, but beautiful. Threxia led him through the village, where her clan lived. Warriors nodded as she passed. Some stared at Jake, but no one said a word. The badge she gave him was working. That night, the hunt began. Dozens of Galactari gathered with weapons and gear. Threxia wore her full armor again, strong, proud, and glowing with her clan's colors. Jake stayed close, following her as the Ab group entered the wild forest. He didn't carry a weapon. He wasn't there to fight. But he watched carefully, amazed by the strength and focus of the Galactari. Hours passed. The sounds of the hunt filled the forest. Then something went wrong. A giant beast, larger than expected, charged from the trees, catching the group by surprise. Warriors scattered. Threxia tried to block its path, but she slipped on wet ground. The beast rushed toward her. Jake didn't think. He grabbed a glowing flare from a nearby bag, activated it, and threw it at the beast's face. The light and sound confused it, making it turn away. The warriors quickly attacked and brought the beast down together. Threxia stood up, unharmed but shaken. She looked at Jake, really looked at him. "You saved me," she said. Jake shrugged. "I just reacted." She walked up to him slowly. "You are not strong like us, but you are not weak." Jake smiled. "I guess that makes me something in between." Threxia said nothing, but her eyes told him everything. In that moment, something changed between them, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The night after the hunt felt different. The sky on Galactar was darker now, lit only by the two moons. One was red like fire, the other pale white. They moved slowly across the sky as the warriors returned to their camp, tired but proud. Jake sat quietly by a glowing fire, still trying to understand what had just happened. His hands were still shaking a little, not from fear, but from the rush of it all. He had never faced anything like that before. The beast was huge. Its roar had shaken the trees, and yet he had acted without thinking, and it worked. Threxia sat beside him, silent and thoughtful. She had not spoken much since the fight, but Jake could feel something different in her presence. She wasn't tense like before. She wasn't holding back. He looked at her and finally asked, "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. You surprised me." Jake smiled. "I surprise myself sometimes." Threxia turned toward him, the light of the fire reflected in her eyes. "You saved me today. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything," Jake said quickly. "We're a team, right?" "No," she said firmly. "In my world, life debt is sacred. When someone saves you, you do not forget. Ever." Jake tried to understand what that meant. "So, what happens now?" Threxia looked up at the moons. "It means I trust you, truly." Those words meant more than any metal. Jake could feel it. "I trust you, too," he said softly. There was a quiet moment between them, filled only by the sound of wind through the glowing trees and the gentle crackling of the fire. Then Threxia spoke again. "When I was younger, I used to look at those moons and wonder if there was more to life than battle, more than victory. But I was trained to let go of those thoughts." Jake listened, not interrupting. "My brother and I would sit near the cliffs and tell stories. He always believed in peace. He said there were other ways to live. I laughed at him. I told him only the strong survive." Jake lowered his eyes. He could feel the pain in her voice. "When he died," she continued, "I thought it was because he was weak, but now I think maybe he was strong in a different way. He believed in things I didn't understand, until I met you." Jake looked at her gently. "You've always been strong, but strength isn't just about fighting. It's also about listening, caring, trusting someone." Threxia turned toward him. "That is what I do not know how to do. My people do not show feelings like this, not even with family. We wear masks of power. But I don't want to wear that mask with you." Jake reached out, slowly, carefully, and placed his hand over hers. Her skin was warm and rough from years of training, but she didn't pull away. "You don't have to," he said. "Not with me." She stared at their hands for a moment, then whispered, "You are strange, but I like it." Jake smiled. "You're strange too, but I like it more than I expected." They stayed there for a long time, just sitting in silence, side by side under the alien sky. The next morning, the camp was full of noise. Warriors celebrated, repaired gear, and cleaned up from the hunt. But something had changed in how they looked at Jake. Where before they had seen a weak outsider, now they nodded at him with respect. Threxia walked beside him, her armor shining in the sunlight. She spoke to her people in their language, short commands, respectful greetings, and each time they gave Jake a second glance, not out of doubt, but out of curiosity. Later, Threxia brought Jake to a small ceremony near a glowing river. A few elders stood in a circle of stones. They chanted softly in Galactic. One of them handed Jake a small pendant shaped like a claw. Threxia explained, "This is a sign of acceptance. You are no longer a visitor. You are now called Rovek, an outsider who is trusted." Jake bowed slightly. "Thank you. I'll wear it with pride." As the ceremony ended, Threxia pulled him aside. "I have to return to my duty soon," she said. "My commanders are calling me back to the Central Fleet." Jake nodded. "And I have to return to Earth." Neither of them said anything for a moment. Then Threxia looked into his eyes. "I don't want this to end." Jake felt the same. "Me neither. But if we keep seeing each other," she said, "our people will notice. They may not like it." Jake gave a sad smile. "I've already been warned. They think I'm getting too close." "Are you?" she asked. Jake stepped closer. "Yes, and I don't regret it." She didn't look away. "Then let us not say goodbye. Let us say, we will return." He nodded. "I'll find a way back. Or maybe you'll visit Earth." "Maybe I will," she said, a rare, small smile on her face. That night, they sat together one last time under the moons. No words, no plans, just presence. Before he left, Threxia gave him something small, a polished black stone with markings carved by her own hand. "This is from my home," she said. "It belongs to my family line. Keep it. Remember me." Jake held the stone tightly. "I will." As his ship lifted off the next morning, he looked out the window and saw Threxia standing at the edge of the field, watching. Strong, silent, and still, but somehow different now. And deep in his heart, he knew something powerful had started between them, something that couldn't be explained with words, not cute, not commander, just real. After returning to Earth, Jake felt changed. The days passed quickly, filled with work and meetings, but his mind often drifted back to Galactar, to Threxia, to the strange bond they had formed, one that no one at Earth's diplomatic office understood, and maybe no one ever would. At first, Jake kept the polished black stone from Threxia in his pocket at all times. It was small and smooth, with strange carvings that seemed to glow faintly when he held it. It reminded him of everything he had learned, and everything he still did not understand about the alien warrior who had trusted him. His friends at work noticed the change in him. He was quieter, more thoughtful. When they joked or teased, he smiled but often didn't join in. One day, his closest colleague, Maria, asked, "Jake, are you okay? You seem different." Jake hesitated, but then said, "I met someone not from Earth, someone who changed the way I see things." Maria raised an eyebrow. "An alien? Really? Sounds like a story from a movie." Jake laughed softly. "It's real," but he kept the details to himself. Not everyone would understand. Weeks later, a new assignment came from Earth's command. Jake was to prepare for the arrival of a Galactari diplomatic team coming to negotiate a new alliance. When he heard this, his heart beat faster. Because the leader of that team was none other than Commander Threxia. The news spread quickly. Some people were excited. Others were worried. There were whispers about Jake's relationship with the Galactari warrior, and many questioned whether it was wise. Jake was ordered to keep things professional, to focus on the negotiations. But inside, he hoped this meeting was more than duty. Maybe it was a chance to reconnect. When the day arrived, the space station's conference hall was filled with delegates from all over the galaxy. The air buzzed with tension and expectation. Jake waited nervously near the entrance. Then, the doors opened, and Threxia walked in. She was wearing a formal uniform this time, dark armor trimmed with silver, and her eyes scanned the room quickly. Then they landed on Jake. For a moment, neither of them moved. Time seemed to slow. Then she gave a small smile, the kind that only he had ever seen before. Jake returned the smile. "Commander." "Jake," she said simply. During the negotiations, they worked together smoothly, translating and explaining cultural details. But when the room was full of others, they stayed apart, careful to follow protocol. Later, when the meeting ended, Threxia asked Jake to meet her in a quiet hallway. "I wanted to see you," she said softly. Jake smiled. "I wanted to see you, too." They stood close but not touching, unsure of what was allowed. "Have you thought about what comes next?" Threxia asked. Jake looked into her eyes. "Every day," she sighed. "Our people expect us to be separate, to focus on duty, but I don't want to forget what we shared." Jake nodded. "Neither do I." For a moment, they were silent. Then, Jake said, "I have a question. Ask. Do you think there is a future for us? Beyond politics, beyond wars?" Threxia looked away. "I don't know, but I want to find out." Jake reached into his pocket and pulled out the black stone she had given him. "This reminds me of you, of your world, of what we learned together." She took it gently, turning it over in her hands. "I keep this too," she said quietly. "And I carry your courage with me." They stood there, two beings from different worlds, connected by something rare and fragile. Suddenly, their moment was interrupted by a call from the delegation leader. Duty was waiting. Before they parted, Threxia whispered, "This is not the end." Jake smiled. "No, it's only the beginning." Months passed. Jake continued his work, traveling between Earth and the space station. Threxia's assignments took her to different parts of the galaxy, but they kept in touch through messages and rare calls. Their connection was not easy. Their cultures were different. Their worlds were far apart. But they found ways to share. Moments, small jokes, pictures of their homes, stories of their days. One day, Jake received a message from Threxia. "I will visit Earth soon. Prepare." He couldn't wait. When she arrived, it was a quiet day at the diplomatic center. No crowds. Just Jake waiting by the entrance. Threxia stepped off the shuttle, her eyes scanning the place. When she saw Jake, she gave him a genuine smile, the kind that lit up her whole face. "Welcome to Earth," Jake said softly. She looked around, amazed by the green trees, the blue sky, and the laughter of children nearby. "This is your world," she said. "Yes," Jake replied. "And now you're a part of it." They walked together, not as warrior and translator, but as two people who had learned to see each other beyond the uniforms and differences. Jake realized that what started with one accidental word, cute, had grown into something neither of them expected, a bridge between worlds, and maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of peace.